Real Sith apprentices go through a lot of hardship during their training, none perhaps more than Darth Maul, who served as Sidious's personal assassin for many years of his early life. Darth Maul here would learn to be savage, brutal, unforgiving, and was essentially tortured by Sidious for years. Maul was sent on some of the most difficult missions we have ever seen from a Sith apprentice, usually made harder by the fact that Maul was not allowed to leave behind any evidence that he had been there. But there was one singular mission that Sidious would send Maul on that would turn out to be one of the most challenging tasks that we have ever seen in the lore, not on a basis of skill or power in the Force, but rather Maul's mental fortitude. In the new canon comic Darth Maul Black, White, and Red, we get treated to an absolute horror show of a mission, one that left even Maul so deeply disturbed that he told his master to his face that he should never have sent him. So, let's open a holocron and dive into the story of the single mission that traumatized even Darth Maul. Our story begins with a briefing from Sidious to his apprentice. Sidious tells Maul that he has received word that a valuable ship has gone dark in space. The only thing beamed from the ship was terrifying security footage of some sort of abomination attacking every crewman. It's explained that this is a prison ship carrying dozens of members of a cult, a group calling themselves the Final Occultation. They allegedly received powers of chaos that flows through the netherworld of the Force, and believed only in madness and anarchy, even a threat to the Sith. The group was led by three terrible beings from whom the trinity of leadership was formed within the cult. Apparently what drew Sidious's attention to the Final Occultation is that they are aware of the Sith, and not only that, but the group somehow knew the names of Darth Sidious and Darth Maul, and Palpatine had no idea how. With this information, they planned to expose the Sith to the galaxy and extinguish them, with the Final Occultation taking their place so that they can claim the galaxy for their own and replace the Sith Order. Maul, of course, has a mission to go and get them under control. However, as Maul was flying towards the downed prison ship, he becomes increasingly paranoid that his master is interested in using these powers, the powers developed by the cult, for his own purposes. Sidious specifically warned Maul to prepare his body and mind for a battle, to keep his lightsaber close and his eyes open. Sidious tells him that his strength and his speed mean nothing if he is untethered from reality and if he falls victim to madness. Maul first understands what his master means when he touches down on the prison ship and immediately finds his mind being attacked and probed by an unforeseen force. Maul describes it as being sucked into the vacuum of space. He cannot breathe, and his body begins to turn crystalline before exploding into shards, all of which turned out to be nothing but a projection. Maul then wakes up on the floor of the hangar bay, surrounded by sporous material around his head. But he then sees the scimitar being dragged out into open space, the docking ray shield disabled. Quickly, Maul throws his lightsaber hilt at a nearby control panel, with enough precision to turn on the ray shields and save himself from being pulled out into the vacuum like in his vision. Even though his ship was cut loose into space, Maul simply activates a remote to have the scimitar land on a nearby planet. Better it be kept in safety and on standby. Maul then begins walking down a dark hallway, lit only by the red glow of his blade. It quickly becomes apparent to him that more spores are now surrounding his space, and is rapidly filling the air. But not only that, it is the smell of rot. That's when Maul comes across a corridor filled with the writhing bodies of crewmen, all of them moaning and begging for death, muttering in dribbles of insanity, crying out for her to get out of their head. That's when Maul sees the first of his targets, an individual by the name of Helda Cerebrum, an entity that appears as a large brain with a body that looks as if it is a skeleton, made of loose, hanging flesh, with black tentacles draping from the bottom. This dreadful creature floats in place, releasing the spores from her inky black eye sockets, allowing her to infiltrate their minds and causing the crewmen to be petrified with terrible visions. She then does the same to Maul, forcing him to see himself in the hands of a massive creature with tentacles for a mouth, bringing Maul closer to consuming him. But instead of giving in to the chaos, Maul concentrates. He concentrates on the Sith plan, the order that he will impose, and his training. Maul throws his saber staff through the illusion monster and strikes the being in the physical world, vertically bisecting the aberration. Picking himself up from the floor now, Maul continues onward, ignoring the plea for help from the surviving security guards. Maul's next challenger lies just ahead in the detention block. Maul takes note that the dead guards in this area look much different than they had in the previous one. The corpses looked more mangled, twisted, and broken. The opponent then came lumbering down the corridor as Maul sensed. This one is armed, spraying fire from a heavy rotary cannon. This cult member was known as Vasek Aldrich, a hulking rhino-like humanoid of immense size and strength. However, a contest of physicality is a battle that comes easily to Maul. The two beings fight. The creature fights wildly, throwing shots at Maul that he easily deflects. However, Vasek fights Maul's precision with disorder, flailing his leg out to kick the assassin. Vasek then picks up one of the still living guards and throws him as a distraction, forcing Maul to slice the man in half. But doing this allows Vasek to disarm him with a well-placed blow. The giant brute then picks Maul up and begins to choke him, declaring that the final occultation worships chaos and pain. But Maul is no simple assassin, and summons his saber staff to come spinning his way, severing both of Vasek's massive arms. Just before delivering the killing blow though, he interrogates the creature to reveal where the final priest is located. The Rhino Man just tells the Sith Lord to follow the screams, and with that, Maul finishes him and continues on his haunting journey. Unfortunately, at this time in the lore, the final priest has no name and there's no image associated with it. In fact, it's simply referred to as the Unknown. Maul has no idea what he's about to get into, but he will soon find out as he begins to hear the echoing screams of pain and agony. Maul notes that sometimes the screams seem to be harmonized into a single voice, almost to be mistaken as singing. A red smoke begins to fill the air, billowing around the corridor as Maul is following until he enters a giant chamber, the heart of the ship, where the main reactor is located. Within the room are dozens of cultists, all participating in a dark ritual. The screams he hears are their own, but standing amongst them, Maul sees himself, another version of him, as he begins to speak. You wish to join them, don't you? You know all too well that the line between pleasure and pain is a thin one. With that, Maul's vision of himself rips off his own face to reveal a skull. Maul tries to lash out, to cut him in half, demanding to know what the creature is. However, the being becomes a cloud of inky darkness, with no real corporeal form. The eldritch creature tells Maul that he is an emissary of chaos, and that Sidious has the wrong ambition. The creature goes on to say Sidious wants to use the dark side for control. That makes him no different than those that use the light side. In the Unknown's opinion, the dark side and the light side are the same. They are the ways of order, whereas the final occultation is anarchy, the anti-force. The revelation then hits Maul. These beings are so horrific that Sidious himself had them imprisoned, and the ritual that they were now performing was the reason that Sidious imprisoned them to begin with. It was a summoning ceremony, a ritual that would cause the hypermatter particles of the ship to open a rift into madness, as the Unknown calls it. He then says that the screams will echo throughout the galaxy, making everyone, everywhere go insane. Maul takes his chance and hurls his lightsaber towards the hypermatter core, rupturing it and setting the ship to explode, halting the ritual while the Unknown was monologuing. Following this, Maul quickly hightails it out of the ship as a tidal wave of cultists chase him, hissing and gnashing their teeth. Maul determines that the only way to end the cult was to destroy the ship entirely. Sidious may have wanted prisoners, but Maul states that this is not a force you want to interrogate, or a weapon that even the Sith could command. The only thing to be done is to destroy them utterly. But instead of hacking them down to pieces with his own lightsaber, the more efficient method was to set the prison ship to crash land on the surface of a nearby world, as Maul sprints and jettisons himself out in a final escape pod, barely making it out alive on the snowy world below them. After crawling out of the snowbank in his pod, Maul gives Sidious a call, telling him that the mission is complete. But Maul regretfully tells him that he could not complete it perfectly. Sidious implores Maul that he senses resentment and confusion. Maul tells his master the truth, saying, "You should have never sent me here. You should have never taken them prisoner in the first place. They should have been destroyed upon capture." Sidious, though, simply replies, "The final occultation nearly broke you, but Maul refutes this, saying that they nearly broke the entire galaxy. Maul was confused as to how such madness can even exist, but his path as a Sith Lord is now assured. Maul believes in order more than ever, but as he walked back towards the scimitar, he said that he would soon be away from the cold and the now haunted tomb. The scars of the occult riddling his mindscape. The mission utterly traumatized Maul. We definitely knew it would take a lot to get under the skin of a trained Sith assassin, but this mission certainly takes the cake. What's disappointing here though is the lack of lore, and we never truly get into any great detail of the occult whatsoever. The mystery is truly what makes the story horrific though. Each of the beings that led the final occultation were a species that we've never seen before in legends or canon, with the most disturbing one not even really having a form of its own. It presents itself as a strange alien creature, but its real form appears to just be a billowing darkness that can take the shape of anything it desires. This was something that Maul had a difficult time perceiving, since it was his first challenge that he could not kill with his bare hands or his lightsaber. Luckily, he used his wits and destroyed the cult's ritual instead. Deep space is full of strange, horrific stuff, but this might be one of the most frightening things we've ever seen in the lore. Essentially, entities of chaos, a madness, and a pain-worshipping cult led by creatures from the great unknown. Creatures that Palpatine apparently tried to study. Of course, it was explained at first that they are aided by chaotic forces that flow from the netherworld, but the final priest doesn't even seem to be mortal. All of it is extremely vague, adding the whole horror aspect to the story. It's quite surprising that any of this came from the netherworld to begin with, although we don't know very much about this strange dimension heretofore, and we had assumed it was purely made of energies of the light. But it seems there is still yet many facets of the Force and the Star Wars galaxy that are currently unexplained. New realms even. But anyway, my friends, what did you think of this bone-chilling new story? Have you read Darth Maul Black, White, and Red? And also, do you wish Star Wars had more horror stories like this one? Or do you believe that this kind of horror even belongs in Star Wars to begin with? Let us know your thoughts and comments down below. As always, my friends, if you enjoyed this video, it would help us out a great deal if you could comment and leave a like. May the Force be with you always, and we will see you in the next Holocron reading.